Jeremy.
Hey, how are you doing, buddy?
Good after day.
It is definitely a very good after day right now for me, and also for you. I think it's definitely the daytime where you are.
Um, well, yeah, I mean, we do live in the same country. It's still
Yeah,
typically relatively the same time
that's true. I mean,
here there.
if we'd have done this while you were in South Africa or while I was in Ireland, we probably could have had an episode where one of us would have been truly after day. But
Well, we could have done an episode where
that's
one of us was sleeping and the other one was recording a podcast. That would have been
That
fun.
sounds like a blast. I think everyone would have enjoyed the sort of
I'll take
snoring
the
sounds
sleeping
coming
part.
from me. Yeah. So today, Dave, we've talked many times about the different items within Star Wars that we prize. I think we even have mentioned some of the things we own in the past that we are proud of, that we have, and things maybe we wanted to own and don't. But so today, inspired by that, we're gonna do sort of, I guess, our top implements, Star Wars memorabilia that we own, and knickknacks or possibly pieces of clothing, if that's something you're proud of, or anything else. And right off the bat, I want to give you a chance to get it out there because this is not something you own, but we've mentioned it before. But I think it's worth giving you a moment one more time to mention the amazing
Yes,
lightsabers that your kids own.
loyal listeners, Jeremy disqualified me from talking about Neo Sabers in our discussion today because I personally don't own a Neo Saber, even though it was obviously not my kids' personal funds that went into purchasing theirs. If you buy a toy for your kid, for some reason that makes it not your toy anymore. I always thought the reason why you had kids was you buy them toys or you pretend to buy them for them, but it's really for you. And you can continue buying toys for the rest of your life, and your wife won't think you're an idiot. My wife already thinks I'm an idiot, so that's fine. But these toys are for my kids. And I will admit to, with the exception of only one time, playing with one of the Neo Sabers when my kids weren't around.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I do give them respect and I don't play with them without them. But Neo Sabers, if you guys haven't checked out Neo Sabers, go to neosabers.com. They're always pretending to have some huge sales, but it's always extended or they always start a new sale as soon as the last one ends. They have the most amazing, authentic, but not licensed replica lightsabers, as well as a plethora of original, creative, sometimes wacky designs. They even have lightsaber nunchucks that I would have no idea how you could actually wield those. But amazing, amazing stuff. They look so cool. They feel real. The sounds are amazing. They change colors. You can change the sound fonts. You can do all kinds of stuff with them. And right as I mentioned, I think the last time we talked, my middle daughter just got one to have clashes with my sons, who's had one now for probably about a year. At which time they both literally lost all interest in lightsaber battling. So they've had exactly one flash and haven't touched them. And so I'm walking into the room, and Riley's came with a awesome acrylic stand that makes it look
Yeah,
really cool and like elegant when it sits on it. And it just sits
yeah.
there. It just sits there.
Oh.
And I'm like, I really want to. It's like my son's drum set that he has in his room that he hasn't sat at it about 2 years now. I'm like, I'm gonna take this out of his room and I'm gonna play with it. Because what's the purpose of a toy? And that might beg of the conversation here. What's the
Yeah,
purpose of a toy if you don't play with the toy? The toy's
right.
purpose is not to sit and exist. A toy's purpose is to be enjoyed. And that begins my journey with Star Wars toys in that
Hmm.
we were never, up until around 1999, just prior to episode one coming out, we were
Yeah,
never collectors of Star Wars toys for the purposes of keeping them sealed in their packages on
right.
a shelf uh, to enjoy what they look like for eternity and maybe think we can make money off selling them later on down the road. We played the heck out of these things. We destroyed them. And
Hmm.
I have probably if I can collected it all together, probably a 3 foot high mound of melted plastic of all of the action figures that we burned to a crisp or liquefied over the course of many, many play sessions, utilizing many articles outside of toys that our parents probably wouldn't approve of. But nonetheless, we did that. Luke Scott, I'm talking to you, uh, Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker in black suit, who literally had the black burned off of him with fire because we set him on fire a number of times. And so he just sort of became Naked Luke, which was a different look, but we enjoyed him. I could probably start for myself, other than Neo Sabers. Yes, I
Is
mean,
that
70,
Bacta Tank Luke?
it would
Or
be back to Tank Luke.
yeah,
But no, back to Tank Luke didn't he have clothes on?
had a loincloth, I
He had
think,
like a
or something
loincloth.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good one too. The one
yeah,
with the little mouth thing, with the breather in his mouth, with two one
yeah.
B next to him, taking care
Hmm.
of business. Two one B is probably the best medical droid any of us will ever know. And in fact, if
Come on now.
when AI takes over and we have medical robots that are helping us, I hope they're all called
Hmm.
two one B because I think that would really put people at ease.
I don't know. I
But
like AZ from the Bad Batch, isn't it? AZ. I think it's AZ
see, there
from the
you
Bad
go.
Batch.
I mean, you go again. You're rubbing it in my face. You always got to do that.
I'm just saying, Dave. There are other good medical droids
See,
out there.
here's the thing. If I do get to Bad Batch eventually, and you guys know
Uh-huh.
I've only watched it in fits and starts. I haven't seen it all the way through. There's lots and lots of it that I'm missing. I've been filled in a lot on some of the details or the fine or the broader points of it by my son and also by
Hmm.
you. But I just feel like it's not ever going to be ingrained in my brain as far as
Hmm.
incorporating it into Star Wars the way that the movies are and the way
No, of
that the
course not.
latter movies were easily able to because they just continued along that direct through line that
Yeah.
was originated with Star Wars. I don't know that ever be able to incorporate them into my everyday conversation as it pertains to Star Wars. I think for some reason it's like my older brother, the way that he was with the prequels, that he basically forgot that they ever or disavowed that they ever existed. So whenever he
Hmm.
played a game of Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, he could disavow the question and not have to answer it because like, well, that's not really a Star Wars movie, so I won't count it. Revisits of prequels notwithstanding, it's a little bit of an exclusive snobbery I think that goes on there. But I'm not treating Bad Batch or the Clone Wars animated series
I
that way
know.
at all. It's really
I
just
know.
because there's so much content there that fills in so much detail that you can understand the broad strokes of it without having to have seen the shows.
Right.
But having seen the shows takes you off on a whole different trajectory of where you're at. And I just don't know if my brain's going to get there. I mean, if maybe
And
eventually.
therefore, listeners, I'm not sure if we'll ever have. I mean, you got me and Gavin chatting about the Bad Batch a little bit, which was great. But if I don't know if Dave and I will ever get a chance to kind of review that show, and that's okay. I mean, it was a good show. I recommend it. Same with Tales of the Empire. Dave, I know you
No,
started it.
I'll
I
finish
did
it.
finish
I'll
it,
finish it.
but we might get to it eventually. But just a little hint of where we are there. I think this was not an uncommon viewpoint. It was fine. It was it was Star Wars, but not nearly as good in my opinion as Tales of the Jedi. In what it was accomplishing. It was characters I didn't care about as much, but that shouldn't matter if you're telling good stories. I thought the stories were okay, but just weren't quite as compelling, especially when it came to Count Dooku's story in
Tales
I
of the
just thought
Jedi.
added such good context
Oh
to
yeah.
Tales of the Jedi. But I thought that Ahsoka too. If I was going to rank the four tales so far, I would put the Tales of the Jedi 1 and 2, Dooku and Ahsoka, followed by and this is uh, the big problem is I watched the entire run of Tales of the Empire. And I should know the names of the two main characters, and I'm already starting to blank on
Morgan
them.
Elsbeth, and that's the
Morgan
problem.
Elsbeth,
You
right?
always have
And
to
she was
jump off
last
with
for
good
me.
characters.
Yeah.
You always want to be brought in with a good character. The Dooku is an exciting character and he's mysterious and he doesn't really that he was responsible for a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but you don't really get to see him do that. When you learn more about him, that's compelling. Whether the story is good or not, you're already attracted to it by that. With Morgan
Right.
Elsbeth, at least in my perspective, you're
Yeah.
already distancing yourself from it because
Hmm.
Morgan Elsbeth is a character from the Ahsoka series, only
Right.
introduced in Ahsoka, or maybe she was
Introduced to
introduced in
be
one
fair
episode of
in
Mandalorian, an
Mandalorian,
episode of
but
The
yes,
Mandalorian where
you're
Ahsoka
right.
also
You're
appeared.
right. She was.
It's really so uninteresting to me that it's not a great way to attract me to that show, and I was put off
Right.
by it. Jedi, Sith, lightsaber battling and stuff like that. That's cool. And Barriss
Mm.
Offee, I understand is a cool character. I haven't gotten to her part of it yet in Tales of the Jedi of the Empire.
Right.
But I do have to make
Yeah.
it clear here, Jeremy.
Hmm.
I regret not having incorporated 100% of Star Wars content into my uh, you know,
Yeah.
75% of my brain that's taken up with Star Wars. I have room for more Star Wars in
Hmm.
there. And I'm not necessarily afraid that I'll lose everything, other things, if I suddenly know everything there is to know about Bad Batch. But I also know
Yeah.
that I don't think I can compete with even my son with how much he's watched those shows and how thoroughly he's incorporated them into what he knows when he talks about Star
Right.
Wars. That he just says that happened in the Bad Batch, this so episode with that character and that character. Like that's great. And I feel bad that I didn't join it from the beginning. I mean, I started watching Clone Wars from the beginning, but then I sort of
Hmm.
just lost track of it, and I didn't continue watching it as it was new. But it's
Right.
my fault. I mean, I take full blame, and I know that they're good shows, great shows. People love them, and they've been around a long time. And I give you a lot of credit for having all that.
Well, and again, a lot of these shows were going on. For listeners, for those of you who don't know, my daughter just turned a year old recently, and I can say that my time to be able to watch TV over this last year was cut by 90% easily.
That'll
The
happen.
times I could find to watch TV, and you have three kids, Dave. So I assume the time you can commit to watching the shows you want to watch, even if it was only Star Wars, would be hard to keep up on everything that comes out, much less I'm sure, you and Carly want to watch things together. You've
No,
talked
we never
about
do that.
the,
But
the game show
but
you
the
like,
if I were to watch Bad Batch, it would
Squares.
have to be. I mean, I could watch it with Gavin, but if it's during the
Right.
day and it's with Gavin, I'm not really getting to just sit there and watch it with Gavin and
Right.
neglect the other two. I can't
Yeah.
really watch it, so I'm up and down. I'm saying what did I miss and all that, blah blah blah, and then eventually, maybe got to go start dinner or do something like that, and so I end
Right.
up forgetting, end up not getting to watch the end. The only way that I would be able to watch it would be the way that I could when I consume my content, which is after the kids go to bed,
Yep.
8:30, 9 p.m. I give
Yep.
myself 2 to 3 hours maybe to either watch something or play video games or something like that. And if I
Right.
were to just sit down and make the commitment to say this time is going to be used specifically to watch Bad Batch, I honestly feel more that I would burn out on Bad Batch before I would finish
Yeah.
it than I would really thoroughly enjoy it and be like, I'm really glad that I started this, because I would just be trying to consume it just
Yeah.
for the
You'd
sake
be
of
feel
consuming it.
like it was a job, and
Yeah.
that's
If I did it
it
more,
feels
I
less
mean,
fun
like
that
watching
way.
the Star Wars Holiday Special. I mean, not that I would ever
Right.
compare the two. That was a job. That was a
That
bad job.
was,
That
but we
was a
had so much
volunteer
fun
job.
doing the episode on it that it ended up being worthwhile homework because of the
I will tell
effect. But
everybody, and I hope I wonder if you think the same. I think those three episodes are our best, the best stuff that we've done. I mean, I think that
yeah,
there isn't a lot out there about the Star Wars Holiday Special, and I think we really dove really deep into it,
we
and we
did
had
such
so
a
much
deep
fun
dive. Yeah.
ripping it apart, even though it's so uncouth to so late. It's still not cool anymore to do that.
No,
I tell everybody if they're going to jump into listening to the PoodooCast that they should probably
that's
check out the Star Wars Holiday Special episodes, because that's really
yeah.
us. I think both of us at our best, and I think the content really just speaks for itself.
Yeah, that was really, and again, it's terrible to say it, but negative content makes interesting content, and we love Star Wars. We're largely talking about all the things we love. That was one of the few times, even with when there was some stuff we liked, it was just more fun to like talk about how stupid it was and how
Yes.
ridiculous
I
it all
also think that
was.
you like things a lot more easily than I probably do. I think I might be a little bit more
Yeah.
critical than you are, but it's
Mm,
so easy to hate that because it's so awful. I mean, that's all there.
right.
That's why we had everyone in the world can come together. I always thought, the only way that humanity is going to be saved is when aliens come down from outer space, and the human race has to unite as one race to repel the alien
Yeah.
invasion. Talking
Yeah.
like in a
Independence Day
94 type of
style.
situation. Really,
Yeah.
that's it. Otherwise, we're doomed. But that's a whole different
Yeah.
conversation. Maybe it's everybody on Earth watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, and we'll all come
Well,
together,
I'll agree
and
how bad it
and that'll
was.
be and then we'll have peace and love.
Yeah. For everyone who doesn't,
And Life Day.
commit suicide in the midst of it,
This
because
is great. We haven't talked
or
about
digs
toys at
out their
all yet.
eyeballs. Yeah.
Let's talk to us about the start of your journey into Star Wars. What was your
Well,
first Star Wars toy you can remember?
I brought three toys with me to talk about today, Dave. But since you're asking about my first toy that I remember from Star Wars, I don't have it anymore, long gone. But like you, I played it, and played with it until I think it finally broke. Is I had an indoor speeder bike with Stormtrooper,
Mm.
and
Return
I
of the
think I've
Jedi. Yeah,
mentioned this
that was
before
yeah.
on the pod, and it was great because there was a little button you could push on the back, and the thing would effectively
The
would pop
front
into
half would
two.
pop
It'd
off,
be
right?
like the
Yeah.
speeder bike got shot, and the stormtrooper go flying off the bike, and it was like, yes, killed the stormtrooper again. And that was a lot of fun to play with. And again, I didn't have a lot of Star Wars toys, so invariably it was probably attacking a Transformer or He-Man or something like that. But it was a Stormtrooper, so it'd always lose, and if it was shooting at it, it would always miss. And so, but that was my earliest recollection of a Star Wars toy that I had a lot of fun
And
playing
you had
with.
a Scout Trooper on him? It had a Scout
Yeah,
Trooper too? I
Scout
love the
Trooper.
Scout Troopers. Those are my
Yeah,
favorites.
yeah, he was great. He was
It's so funny
unique.
because I think I've talked about this before. We grew up, middle class, probably similar to you.
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
whatever reason, we had tons of action figures, but that's where it
Mm.
stopped. We had no ships, we had no
Mm.
play sets. I really can't think of a single one. So there was one family friend that we went to that this was again 1983, 1984. So I was 4, 5. And they had an AT-AT and they
Oh,
had a
nice.
Endor Ewok village playset. And
Cool.
I remember liking them very much, but really whenever we went there, what I wanted to do most was play with their Star Wars toys because
Yeah.
for whatever reason we had to invent it all, through
Right.
the environment of our house, invent the other things that they were interacting with. It was just
Yeah.
figures, so that was pure imagination. We were building using Lego to build Star Wars ships, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but we never had the big things. Like I remember, like I said, that Luke Skywalker action figure is the one that probably lasted the longest. He was still
Yeah.
around after all the other ones were literally melted down to nothing, and we just had to throw them out. He might still be floating around my parents' house somewhere today. Actually, that's how powerful, how strong the force is with him. But the very first toy that I ever had from Star Wars, I would have to say not even the action figures, but you can see it online. It's a action figure case that was
Hmm.
in the shape of Darth Vader. Are you
Oh, that's
familiar with this?
cool.
It was a
Yeah, I
big
think
plastic
I think I've
case
seen that
that
before.
it
That's
opened up,
awesome.
it folded up from the top,
Yeah.
and when you had it all the way open, there was slots in it that you can fill probably, I don't know, 20, 30 action figures into it. So you
Nice.
could stick all of them into each one. You could close it up. It could be your carrying case. But
Was
we
it
probably
full?
played, what's that?
Was it full with Star Wars action
I don't
figures
think it
at
was
one
ever
point?
completely full, but I do
Okay.
know that we played with the case
Yeah.
just as much as we play with the figures. Like we would, like I
That's
would,
awesome.
it's like torso sized and head sized.
Yeah.
So I would hold it up in front of my head
Yeah.
and walk around and be like, I'm Darth Vader, like that kind of stuff. And that was a toy in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, and that despite Neo Sabers didn't exist, we used any long thin object as a lightsaber that we could get our hands on, and sometimes nothing
Right.
in our hands as lightsabers. But the first toy, I really can't remember. I was asking you as a hoping when you told me it would trigger a memory of mine that I could know what mine was, but I don't know what it was.
Well, I love it. I love it that I mean, and this is great because, it speaks to this idea that, obviously when we were kids, we just thought of the toys as toys. We didn't think of them as things we were going to keep around for ages to just, like you said, in a box somewhere. But actually one of the things that I brought to talk about today that I do have is something that is a toy still in a box. And but I want to start with the most obvious one I have. You talked about your Neo Sabers, Dave, and while I don't have one of those, I do have one of my first things I still love, and I still play with it a lot, especially when I have to dress up for a party. Is my Star Wars lightsaber that you could. I built this at Disney, and
I
at
can
the
barely
time
see it, but I do see it's purple.
okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Because of the background. So, but yes, I have a purple lightsaber that is, basically a custom thing, sort of, in that there was only so many different pieces to choose from in the lightsaber hilt. The little extra pieces you could add on, some of which I believe have popped off by now because I've played with it so much. But it does extend. Not now. It doesn't go all the way down. You can always see the very edge of the
Yeah,
purple, even when it's
sure.
not extended. So it's never goes down all the way just to the hilt, but it's still pretty cool in that it does extend. And when you turn it on, it does make lightsaber noises. We've got a power button, and it comes on and it goes.
Is that the expensive one that you went and you customized it at the droid at the lightsaber shop, or is that like a slightly
And
less?
this was a while ago, so I don't know if it's the same basic stuff they were doing, they're doing now as they were then. But yes, you went to the shop and you literally, paid for the right to take whatever pieces you want to build your own lightsaber. I did choose purple because at the time, it was still cool to think of Mace Windu as cool, and I still like Mace Windu.
Like
Who am
you're
I
talking
kidding?
at Galaxy's
But
Edge, or is this pre-Galaxy's Edge?
this was pre Galaxy's Edge.
Okay,
This
so it's
was
not to build the lightsaber at Sabi's workshop because those are expensive, and I believe those
yeah.
don't have retractable blades. Those are like have legit,
Okay.
uh, like hard blades on them.
Nope.
Not
Yep. This is but what I love about this, beyond the fact that, it's just a cool Star Wars lightsaber and it is officially licensed, thing at the time, at least that I bought, is that it goes great when I want to, as I said, dress up. I have a very cheap Jedi cloak that I bought. I want to say like 15, $20 on Amazon that I regularly will wear. And I will carry my lightsaber. And it's clear what I am, regardless of what I'm wearing underneath. Although I try to wear something that's like kind of brown on the bottom
and
and
you do
lighter
that
up
to like
top.
to like business
But
meetings and stuff.
yeah, it's fun to, wear it to client meetings. If they're signing documents, I want to make it a memorable
And you like
experience for
wave your
them.
hand across and says,
Um,
"You will sign this document."
Correct,
Stuff like
correct.
that.
And of course, because it's retractable, the other fun thing I can do with it is like on Halloween, as it gets dark outside, I can stand out in the grass as trick-or-treaters are coming up, and I can sort of hang my head down a little bit in my Jedi cloak, and it's dark, and maybe you can't fully see me. I've got my lightsaber up my sleeve, and then I can literally quickly bust out the lightsaber and make people jump like it's a scary thing. And even though
How
I'm a
dare
Jedi, I'm not
you?
supposed to be doing that to people. I'm sort of corrupting the point of the Jedi. But I
You
have
are
made
you're
several
ruining.
people scream
You're
with
Trump.
uh, with my
You know what you're
lightsaber.
doing, Jeremy? You're turning people away from Star Wars at a very young age. You should be welcoming them with the peace loving attitude of the Jedi instead of this inflicting fear on them. Like who? Well, you're some kind of a Sith, and
I might
you
be,
dare
or a
have a
dark
non-red
Jedi.
lightsaber. My
Yeah, I
goodness.
should have an orange one, maybe.
I'm disappointed in you scaring little kids with Star Wars. Like that's the last thing you should be trying to scare little kids with. Me, I will wear a Halloween mask or
Hmm.
an alien mask, and but if I'm wearing my Chewbacca onesie quasi costume, it's not to scare people. It's just to make Chewbacca noises and make a fool of myself. You know what? I'm really hurt by this, Jeremy.
You're disappointed in me, are
I
you?
think this
For
practice
the
should
most part,
stop.
I scare the tweens and teens who are coming up, and the little kids
Oh,
I'm
they're
much
already
more
drunk
gentle
already
with.
anyway. They don't care.
Yeah, so but I remember especially there was clearly like a high school age group of girls, like three or four girls wandering around trick or treating, and as they walked up, they couldn't quite tell if I was like a statue or something. It was already pretty dark, and they were sort of they saw me and didn't know what quite to do, so they started to slow down because they were like, "What is going on with this thing in the yard?" And then when I quickly burst out the lightsaber, they literally screamed and jumped back.
That's
It
awesome
was really fun for me on that one because it
because
was
they're
like.
definitely too old to be trick or treating. You should have
Yeah, oh
said,
yeah.
"Too old to trick or treat. You are."
So I have my lightsaber, Dave, and I'm proud of it. I don't display it anywhere, but I know I have it and I can find it whenever I need it for my costume,
That's
and it
funny.
makes me
That's funny you
happy.
said that word, display. The word is right there in it.
Hmm.
It's not to play with it. It's a display.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's the opposite
Yeah,
of play. It's instead of
correct.
enjoying the thing, it's like for some reason looking at the thing gives you that the same joy. Like why would ever looking at a lightsaber be more fun than
Then
swinging it
playing
around
with
with
it?
sounds? You
Never.
know what I mean? I love that.
Zero
No, that's
chance of
great.
it.
Display is just as almost as important as play.
Yeah.
But here we are. Okay, I would recommend to you the next time, and I'm sure it won't be too long because I'm sure you guys, now that your daughter is coming of age to get her into training, you're probably going to go to Disney World,
Hmm.
and you're probably going to go to Galaxy's Edge. I would
Hmm.
recommend to you highly to check out Savvy's workshop, and you'll
Okay.
probably I don't know, have you been? You've probably been there before. You've
I've
probably seen.
not.
I mean, you've been to Galaxy's Edge.
I have not yet been to Galaxy's Edge.
What? Who are you?
I know.
It's 20. You can see it from your house, Jeremy. How dare you? I can't believe this guy. I'm learning so much about you. And like
I
I said
know.
before we started recording, Never mind, I won't say it. You got to check out Savvy's Workshop. Galaxy's Edge is a tremendous, beautiful mecca for Star Wars fans. Just
Okay.
to walk around and exist in that realm, that's every detail was so meticulously designed
Hmm.
to evoke a feeling of Star Wars with the music playing and the architecture and the just the environment. It's
Hmm.
great. And Savi's Workshop was Disney's attempt at introducing high-end lightsabers, higher end lightsabers for more discerning collectors or more serious cosplayers, I guess. And those things look legit. I mean, what you're holding there,
Hmm.
I couldn't, I wasn't holding it, but it looks like plastic and it looks
Oh
like it
yeah.
probably doesn't weigh very much, right? These
Mm-mm.
things are like not necessarily. Maybe I don't know because I haven't personally had one. They look heftier. I know a Neo
Hmm.
Saber is heavy. You wouldn't even get how heavy it is until you hold it. Like it's legit. It's like legitimate that the weight of what a lightsaber would be if you were holding it. Like
Right.
that's what you love about it, and that's what these are too. But it's not just what you buy from Neo Sabers, where they might have 100+ different designs. Here you can design every little detail down to the detailing on the hilt or the BMF on the under the side of the bottom of the handle, the color of the blade, all that kind of stuff, the emitters and the blah blah blah. It's very very cool, and one of these days I will get one when we go to Disneyland because here we have Disneyland, not World, but it's the same shop, and it's very very cool. And that's a toy that really the reason why that exists is obviously parents take their kids to Disney and they want to buy them toys because parents want to buy their kids toys. But when you are going to
Hmm.
go and buy your kid an upwards of $200 toy, you
Yeah.
know that toy isn't for your kid. I knew it, and you know what? After we finish this today, I'm going to go and play some Neo Sabers by myself. Please don't open the door because these things are they're for us. I mean, they're for
Yeah.
us to continue our love of Star Wars into our adulthood and not have to feel ashamed about it without not necessarily going so far as to from scratch building your own costumes and things like that and just walking around the streets enjoying other like-minded costume wearers who never take their
Right.
helmets off, not because they're like Din Djarin but because they're not the coolest people around. I'm not gonna insult an entire battalion of or legion of stormtroopers out there, but I'm just saying if you're an adult, covering your head with a helmet in perpetuity is probably not the best thing you should be doing.
Yeah.
But toys are for everyone, and still, this is probably me as a something's wrong with me. I had arrested development, like many of us do, and I'm still a man. I'm still a child, even though I'm a man. Probably why our entire generation, yours and mine, is going down the tubes. But our children can be saved. Is because I go to Target, I go to any one of these stores, and the one department I really want to check out, if it's not the electronics, it's the toy department. I mean,
The
I still
toy
want to see the
department.
toys are out there, and I know that I'm
Yeah.
not going to buy one for myself, but I do kind of see stuff that I like, and I kind of push my
Uh-huh.
kids in that direction. Say, hey, that's cool. You want to bring that
You
one
don't
home?
carry it to
So
the register anymore, Dave, to see how it would feel to own
I
it?
abandoned that practice years ago. Sadly, I feel like if I pick it up, it's not enough because obviously
Uh-huh.
back then I was completely broke and I knew that I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be able to buy the thing. I at least could feel what it was like to to own it.
Yeah.
Now I'm like I could buy it if I picked it up,
I
so I
could
better
buy
not
it.
pick it up
Yeah.
because I'll
Better
probably
not
end up
pick it
buying
up.
it. And then my wife
Yeah.
will be like, "Why do you have Dave? Happy 45th birthday. Why did you just walk in with a bag full of He-Man action figures? I mean, what's going on with you, buddy?" And I'll probably break down crying, and then she'll forgive me. But that never actually happened, as far as you know. Um,
As far as you know. Anyway, so all
yeah.
right. Let's get back on track here, Dave. I've talked about one item and we are now what 30 minutes into the podcast. Let's hear what you got, man. What's your one of your favorite pieces of memorabilia you currently own?
Well, I was probably as a way to skirt around the idea of being a grown man spending money on Star Wars toys when I have a wife and children and dogs in my house was to subscribe to the what do they call it? The Loot Crate, the Funko Loot Crate from when they first introduced it. I subscribed to it for the very first box until they discontinued it. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure you're all
And
familiar
I
with
remember you
Funko.
telling me about it. I just want to say you told me about this all the way back when you did it. You were really excited about it,
Oh, it was
and
amazing.
you
In
were
fact,
reporting on some of the stuff you were getting. So tell us about it.
I enjoyed it so much that really I would look forward to every, I don't even remember how often it was. It wasn't maybe every 5 weeks or maybe every 6 weeks they would send a new one. And let me see if I could pull it up. It was called the Star Wars. No, it wasn't called the Loot Crate. It was called something in the theme of Star Wars, and I'll remember what it was. I at one point kept the outer boxes along with everything that's inside. In fact, okay, the Loot Crate was Funko. So Funko is the company that has a bobblehead for every character that ever existed, whether it's a real character or a fictional character somewhere in the world. There's a Funko about that. In fact, you can actually go so far as to design your own and have them build you one. So this thing would be a crate. They would send you 1 to 2 Funko bobbleheads specifically of Star Wars every session, along with other random items that you never knew it was going to get. So I got T-shirts, I got coffee mugs, I got a set of salt and pepper shakers, I got a lot of stickers, a lot of like what do you call it? Like patches, iron, not like patches you have to sew onto something. I don't really know what that would be. And I got pins, lots and lots of pins. Now, I never really collect pins or stickers or patches, but I happen to have a ton of them now just from this loot kit. Really, all I wanted from it was the bobbleheads. But then I quickly saw after I don't know the 10th or 12th delivery that my house was filling up with these things, and I had nowhere to put them. I mean, I had displaced the fake plants on the shelf over here and the picture frame on the stand over there with bobbleheads, and it wasn't really appreciated by every other adult in my house, if I could just say it without saying it. And so eventually I had to literally take all of the bobbleheads from all over the house and shove them into one of my kids' rooms. Or I donated them. I said, you're going to get this one, you're going to get this one. So Riley and Gavin have each in their rooms half of all the bobbleheads that were in the house. And Zoe has probably 2 or 3 that are like the cutest ones because she's the cutest. No offense, Riley and Gavin. You're all cute. But so I had all these bobbleheads and didn't really know what to do with them. I'm actually looking right now at one of the exclusive bobbleheads that was, I don't know if you could see it. Can you see it? It was
I see the stand. Is that a
yeah,
stand? What am I
it's a
looking at?
stand because it's the only one of my bobbleheads that's broken. There used to be a
Oh.
Boba Fett who stood on this. This is replicating the flames of when Boba Fett would take off from his jetpack. So his jetpack would the bottom bits
Oh.
would be on the top, and instead of being a
Yeah.
typical, if any of you have seen what a Funko bobblehead looks like, it's typically just a round black disc essentially with 2 little nubs in it that you would stand the bobblehead in. So you could remove the bobblehead from it and put it elsewhere and play with it like it was an action figure if you wanted to, at risk of destroying the spring, which would render it a lot less cool. But
Hmm.
this one, it was permanently affixed to this base.
Hmm.
Permanently, not if you've got kids in the house. So the base, the base is here, and and he's here. I think I probably have it at my desk because my intention was to eventually fix it. And the
Ah,
bobblehead
there he is. There's
is
Boba.
here. This is an awesome Boba Fett that I really, really love. And you look, and actually, if you look at him, look at where his helmet is because
Yeah,
they
yeah.
screwed it
He's
up.
not looking at me.
His
There
head
he.
is permanently turned, basically like
Uh-huh.
the Exorcist baby, um, almost completely behind him.
It is. It's.
And
He was kind of looking to the side, and
he's
then
no, he's not.
not.
He's looking
Yeah.
behind him.
Yeah.
Like that's his
Now he's
butt.
looking behind,
That's his.
completely behind himself now.
So yeah, he's behind
Yeah.
himself, but you could see the
Uh-huh.
underneath of the
Sarlacc really
jetpack.
had a weird effect on poor Bo.
Oh yeah, this is something freaky. So I have those. So I still have this one. Eventually I'll fix them. I really, if anybody can tell me how to fix the spring to get the heads to be realigned where they belong, please let me know.
Yeah.
But so I have all these, and probably the dumbest part of it all is that for some reason, when I started collecting these, I became, for a short time, I still am, a collector that wants to keep toys and whatever you want to call these things. They're toys. I wanted to
Hmm.
keep them in somewhat of a good working, semi-pristine order. So if you
Right.
go into my closet in my bedroom, you will find on the top shelf above the shelving, just like sitting on top, every single box of every single Funko that I received during the run of this whole Loot Crate thing. So there are, I don't know what, 50, 60, 100 boxes, very neatly organized and stacked on one part of my shelf, and it's pretty for me to look at. It also takes up a tremendous amount of space, and it's really dumb because it's not like I'm going to suddenly just say, okay, let's pack them all up. We're putting them on eBay, and I'm going to get rid of all of them. Or maybe I will. If anybody has any interest, please let me know, and I could potentially give you a semi pristine condition bobblehead. But I've got all the boxes, and that is what really made me think that I was coming around kind of full circle into an adult, because I no longer wanted to play with toys. I just wanted to collect them. But
Oh yeah.
boxes are all empty. The toys are all on the display. If you go into Gavin's room, on his desk under his bed, he's got a loft bed. Under his bed, he's got a desk, and it's just littered with bobbleheads everywhere. He never really sits at his desk. He never really plays with them anyway, but they're cool to look at when you go in there. And those are my most recent foray into Star Wars toys. But my most recent foray into Star Wars toys, and this is, let me just go back really, really quick. My first real experience, my first real memory with Star Wars toys was Return of the Jedi toys. For whatever reason, we had a lot of the Star Wars previously, but like I said, the Luke in black outfit was a Return of the Jedi action figure.
For sure.
And we had bought lots of figures before, and we played with lots of figures before, but the ones that I remember playing with the most, again, I was of the age. I was 4, 5.
Yeah, I think, and it's funny you're saying that, because I also think I did have a Wicket. I don't remember what happened to him.
Too, I think.
I mean, but yeah, it's one of those where, again, Return of the Jedi was the first one I remember, coming out, because again, we were,
I think it was really mainstreamed at that
5 or
point,
6,
where you could find them everywhere. There was a ton of them. With Star Wars, the action figures didn't come out until after the movie came out, but then it became an anticipatory thing where the movie's about to come out. Let's learn about the movie by seeing what characters are called. And like we were talking about before, sometimes it was the only way to know what a character's name was by getting the action figure, because they never named them in the movie. I mean, they're everywhere, but they all have a name. They were all named as they were created. They were all given names, at least of the type of creature it was, if not their actual given name. And so it was helpful to educate you, and so I knew the names of all the characters because of the action figures. But that was, again, Return of the Jedi era, so I was of the age. I wasn't born yet when Star Wars came out. I was just over a year old when Empire Strikes Back came out, so that was when it was appropriate for me to be paying attention to these things, was when Return of the Jedi came out. And very conveniently, it was the most, at least as far as the purists would have you think, the most kid-friendly, the most, cuddly of all of the movies. I would disagree, but having the Ewoks in there certainly made an argument for that it was like, yeah, of course, every 4-year-old is going to love Star Wars because Ewoks are cute. And I was like, I didn't love Star Wars because Ewoks are cute. I love Star Wars because Jabba the Hutt was freaking gross and awesome and mean, and Salacious Crumb just cackled his head off, and Boba Fett got sucked to death by the Sarlacc pit, and Darth Vader threw the Emperor down the shaft. I mean,
and don't forget, we had Admiral Akbar saying it's a trap, and
again, but not for the first time.
1,000 memes were launched. A billion memes were launched.
They were, and General Madine, of course, who is everyone's favorite rebel general. I had his action figure too. But so the toys there, I jumped to today, and like we've discussed in the past, I am a big Lego guy.
Yeah.
And we've also discussed in the past, I think, that for whatever reason, probably because he started first, I let my little brother, who I think he's over 42 now. Yeah, he's an old man like me. He was collecting lots of Star Wars Lego, and I would leave the Star Wars Lego to him, and I would collect all the other stuff. So I was a lot more into the one-offs from movies, the 18 and up sets, things like that. But whenever May 4th comes around, the last 3-4 years, I can't not buy a Star Wars Lego, both to celebrate Lego and to celebrate Star Wars and to waste money and to anticipate having fun. And so this past lead into May the 4th, which was now almost 3 weeks ago now, Lego has great deals. You buy, you get all these gifts with purchase. You get double, quadruple VIP insider points when you make purchases for specific Star Wars items only. And so I bought the 18 and up Super Star Destroyer mini scale set and the Droideka, the whirly battle droid from Star Wars Episode 1, because again, and we probably should devote probably our next episode to this. We just celebrated Star Wars
Yeah.
Episode 1's 25th anniversary
Yep.
on this past May 4th. So there's
You're
lots
right.
of branded stuff, and it's probably worth a revisit because the opinion on it has changed significantly over the years. People have kind of come back around to the prequels in a way that aligns with my thinking, I think, a lot, instead of the hatred that was heaped upon them upon release. But that's a different story. But the Droideka is super, super awesome. Every time I look at them or I touch them, I say, they're no match for a Droideka. Because Droideka might be one of the dumbest names. It sounds like a Hanukkah droid. Like, I don't really know what it is, why they named it that.
Hanukkah
They're
droid. I
also called
love that
destroyer
idea.
droids.
It
They
needed
have
8 guns or 9
synonymic
possibly, but
names. I don't
yeah.
really know why they gave them 2 names. They're probably one of the only
Yeah, destroyer
creatures.
droids or droideka. Yeah.
Droideka destroyer droids. I mean, maybe just stick
Yeah.
with the destroyer droids. I think that's
Right.
fine. Like you
Yeah, I
have
think we all knew
you
what they were.
have Rune Hako calling them Droideka, and then you have
Uh-huh.
Obi-Wan calling them destroyers. So how we knew
Yeah.
they were destroyers, I don't know, especially since apparently they didn't know that destroyers had their own shields that could, block they could shoot lasers out of them, but then the lasers can't be deflected back into them. So it was a standoff, so they couldn't destroy the Droideka, which is why I was like, man, destroyer droids are better than Jedi. 2 Jedi can't be 2 destroyer droids. That's like an even match. Like, what is up with this? And then later on, you see them getting destroyed left and right. But the Droideka is a super cool build. It's also an 18-up build, quote unquote, meaning it's for adults like me to play with.
Little preview of episode 1. I would argue that they had not had a lot of experience fighting them at that point, and also they were trapped in a tunnel, so there was no way to sort of flank them the way you see them do in a lot of the other episodes, where it's like open space.
But maybe a
Droideka,
force
you can
push
sort
would
of
have done the trick,
right.
or maybe something else would
Yeah,
have
any
done
number of things.
it.
But
runs so fast,
limited
you just
space
run
and
straight through them,
limited engagement with them and limited
agreed,
space.
of course.
So
Of course, but the fact that's why, Jeremy.
No, I agree.
The fact that he knew its name, meaning they knew what they were. He didn't just name, oh, look, that the droid is destroying things. Let's just call it a destroyer droid and then run away.
Right.
It didn't destroy anything.
Actually. Yeah, Obi-Wan probably shouldn't have had Obi-Wan say anything about him. Should have just said, Master,
destroyers.
Something's coming.
Yeah. What are those? Oh, my.
Oh, these things have shields? Oh, no. Like, okay.
Run away, Anakin. I mean, not Anakin. Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my poor attempt at Qui-Gon. Rest in peace. But the Droideka is cool because not only does it stand up on its 3 little tripod legs and have and if you press the head, I think it'll like do like each arm
it moves
left and right will sort of go forward and backward as when one's forward, the other one's back, and vice versa. But you can take one piece out and you can roll it up into a ball, and it could be a ball droid too, which is very, very cool. It's not necessarily
that is neat.
but it is neat, and it was a cool build too. But the Super Star Destroyer, and again, this is why I don't have a lot of Star Wars Lego, because they take up a lot of space. For starters. Lego in general does. And I didn't want to, and as nerdy as the Enterprise is for me, I wanted it to at least have somewhat more attractive builds that I could display around my house that my wife wouldn't have too much of an issue with, like the grand piano, for instance, or things like that, or like even the replica video game consoles. They had a cool look to them.
It was your wife's family who bought the piano for you because they knew
it was my wife's. It was my mother-in-law that made me an adult Lego maniac. I was going to rename myself Zach as a result of it. That she bought me the piano, the Lego grand piano, and the Nintendo Entertainment System with
that
TV.
Is too cool.
2 of the best builds that I've had, and super, super awesome. I've rebuilt each of them. I'm like that. I've rebuilt each of them 2 or 3 times each.
Amazing.
But the Super Star Destroyer is so cool because it's probably only about 18 inches, maybe 20 inches long. So get the scale of that. But along with that build, they have you build 2 regular size Star Destroyers that attach to it from a distance with a long, clear Lego stick pole. I don't know exactly what that piece is called. So it makes it look like they're flying alongside it. And these things are less than an inch long. So it really gives you a sense of the scale of the Super Star Destroyer, that it just absolutely dwarfed these otherwise amazingly imposing ships from Empire Strikes Back. That was the biggest ship you'd ever seen. Empire Strikes Back, and obviously in A New Hope, when you saw them, there's like, there can't possibly be a bigger vessel than this. Along comes the Super Star Destroyer at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and it's like, these Star Destroyers are as wimpy as it gets. And that's really, really cool. But really, the only time I've ever bought Lego Star Wars has been Lego Star Wars Day. We're talking now probably
Hmm.
four straight years, I've bought at least 2 sets every time. So consequently, I have a room full of Star Wars Lego that I didn't intend to have, but like I don't want to get rid of them. The R2 is just too cool. The
Yeah.
Dio was Riley. She built it because for whatever she loves Rise of Skywalker because it has the sound of her name at the beginning. I've mentioned that before too.
Yep.
And so we have these all built up there. And there's a Yoda, and I have an A-wing that I built that I is currently in the garage that I'm itching to rebuild, and I'm gonna have to take apart more as I get to it. But for me, as an adult, I will admit, and I think probably as much as you liking to play with your lightsaber when you do, I still love to build Lego. And if it's Star
Hmm.
Wars, then it's a Star Wars toy. And so yeah, I'm still
Yeah.
playing with Star Wars toys. And I just did, a week ago.
Right.
So there.
Nice. Nice. Well, I have to say, every time you talk about Lego, it makes me want to like buy a Lego. I saw the other day, veering away from Star Wars a little bit here, that they came out with Barad-dûr in
Oh God,
Lego,
yes.
and that
Oh, I
looked
want it so
amazing.
bad.
That's Lord of the Rings. That's Sauron's eye at the top. It's truly from the movies because there is no Sauron's eye in the books, but it's this visual from the movies that was so powerful of his dark tower with his eye at the top, and you could build it, and it looked amazing.
It's not
I
just
saw,
that, but if you look at the back of it, there's so much detail. The tower all the way up,
yeah,
each individual room has like a different thing going on in it with a
it's
different setup. It's
crazy.
so,
There's
so
like a
cool.
prison, there's like a
I
torture
couldn't do the
area. It was
Barad-dûr though, as much as I
amazing.
really want it, is without getting the Rivendell. I mean, that Rivendell is just
Yeah, the
spectacular.
Rivendell
And it
looks
takes up like a
spectacular
whole table.
too.
It's an
Yeah, and
amazing,
that's the
amazing
thing. They put it next to Rivendell, and the difference is Barad-dûr is very tall, but not as nearly as wide, whereas
yeah.
Rivendell is this sprawling set that looked absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, both of those things, if I was going to get into Lego, would be the things that I
You
would
should,
probably
man.
be
You
like, it'd
really
have to be
should.
for Lord of the Rings, because
I,
you've already got Star Wars nailed down for me, you and Michael.
No,
So,
I mean, I'm trying to not have as much Star Wars on display. In fact, like I
yeah,
told you, I disassemble a lot of my Lego. I currently have
yeah.
probably 8 sets that I had
Oh,
built that I had unbuilt and put back into their
yeah.
boxes and put back in my garage. What I do is I follow the instructions backwards. So I go to the last page of the instructions and I see what pieces went into that last page, and I remove those pieces from the build.
Wow.
And
You're really
and then when I
technical
get to
about
the
it.
page that shows me the bag number, I
Hmm.
stop. I take a Ziploc bag. I put a number on it, and I put all those pieces that I'd taken off the set up until that point into that bag. So when I'm
Hmm.
done, I have all the bags numbered, so
Right.
someone can just take it from me, follow the instructions, and build it all the way through without having it to be like this tremendous 2,000 plus piece jigsaw puzzle of having to sort through all the pieces. I actually literally put them back into their bags. I just did this last week because again was running out of room post having built the Star Destroyer and the Droideka. I took apart for the first time, and I'm not as keen on really rebuilding it because it's a tough build and it's kind of annoying. Is the tumbler from the Batman series, the Batman Begins,
Oh,
Dark Knight.
yeah.
I don't. I actually.
The
Well,
Batmobile, but yeah, it's
it's a
the big black
2000.
Batmobile from that. Yeah.
It's like a 2046 piece set, something like that. And I built
Oh,
it backwards.
wow.
And what I was doing, this is at night after the kids are asleep. I'm sitting at the dining room table, and I can see the TV room TV from there. I put on Batman Begins. So I'm listening to the music and I'm watching the movie while I'm unbuilding it. And so when he finally unveils the tumbler and is like, "Does it come in black?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, it does." And I got it right in front of me. I'm such a dork. And I watched that. And by the time I finished Dark Knight, I was just about done. And so I started
Uh,
Dark Knight Rises. And I finished. Sadly, I didn't finish watching Dark Knight Rises. But it's
that's
it's
not
become a fun
particularly
little
sadly,
meditative
unfortunately.
experience for me that I've been building something in that theme. I'll put the
Hmm.
music on either on
I
my
like that.
headphones
That's cool,
or I'll
David.
watch it on the TV while I'm doing it. And it
That's a
really
real fun way to do it.
it's just a really fun experience.
Yeah.
The tumbler is a
Um,
cool looking build, but it's
Speak. I'm gonna just throw out
what is it?
an idea for you. Just
Uh-huh.
and you may have already considered it, but I know you take pictures of them when they're done. Feels like because you can't keep them all up at all times, might actually be a good idea. And again, you'd have to maybe update it regularly or print or do multiple prints. But seems like you should take some really good high quality pictures of them and then do like almost like a photo book, like a scrapbook, or like do like go to like Google or Shutterfly or one of those and literally just do like a nice photo book of all the Legos you've created so you could look at them again, even when
That
they're
is a
not
good
built,
idea.
and just say,
But here's what I do though, Jeremy, is when I want to look at them again, I go into the
you build them
garage
again.
and I build it again.
I
And then I
know, I
have it
know.
again. But then in doing so, like I've gotten good at it. I mean,
Yeah,
my wife
clearly.
doesn't even recognize it, but the Lego grand piano has been gone from the center of our circular dining room table now for almost a year. I
Oh,
disassembled that one and put it back
wow.
in the garage because I was like, I'll let her put a planter there. I'll let her put something a little more grown up in the center. It was a very pretty looking piece. You can't even
Yeah, I
tell it's a
remember the
piano
pictures.
unless you
Yeah.
really like look at it close because it's completely polished on the outside with the flat pieces with no studs exposed, and
Hmm.
it looks really nice. Um, I've done that with a lot of my builds, and I love that idea. I do like to take pictures, but I also do like to build
Rebuilding them.
Lego too. And so I
Yeah.
always have the option of doing it. And also, again, I probably expect at some point in the future, if and when we ever do move, I will have more room to put up some stuff of mine.
Yeah,
And
do a
even if
Lego
that's
room.
a converted garage where I can keep the stuff
Hmm.
permanently up there. But again, it's fun to build them. So if I have
Yeah.
nothing to build, if I'm not spending any money, why not rebuild it? It's not like I'm not like uh President Business where I gotta
I'm gonna go
use
super
Craggle
glue to
on
keep them all
everything.
together. Craggle.
I would never even think about gluing
The
these sets
Craggle.
to never be able to use them again and keep them, one solid piece forever. That's awful. I love the idea of being
Yeah.
able to disassemble and reassemble it, although it does become a little flimsier. The connections become a little bit softer as you
Mm.
build and unbuild a piece. And I could tell the third time I built the piano, the pieces didn't really snap, didn't really give that satisfying snap the way they did. But
Yeah.
it's still great. I mean, if any of you out there, adults who love Star Wars or any kind of property like that, and you're looking for something that is an enjoyable diversion and almost meditative in its in the experience you can have with it, you can't go wrong with Lego. It's really great, and especially now. I think I've also mentioned this before too, with the app that you can put on an iPad or even a phone. The Lego Build app means
Hmm.
you never have to use the instruction booklet. You never have to hold it at an awkward angle to see it. You can prop up your iPad or your phone, and it has the same exact instructions that you would find in the books, and sometimes even interactive instructions
Ah,
that allow you to pan
that's
around
cool.
in 360 degrees what you're building to see exactly the angle that you want to get at.
That's
It
nice.
animates the motion. It shows you exactly what piece is there, so can't make a mistake. And there's even something called Build Together, which I haven't
Hmm.
experienced. And if some of you have, please let me know. Where I guess the idea is both people have two people living in a different household have the same set. There's some kind of social aspect where they can build it at the same time, or I don't
Hmm.
know. I'll look into it. But it's great. It's just fun. It's just fun. I'm gonna go build some
Sounds
Lego right
fun,
now.
Dave. All right, cool. Well, now we know some of your good memorabilia, and I love that it's still interactive for you in that way. I have a piece that I want to talk about yet here that has never been interactive or played with in
Oh
any
no.
way. And back, Dave, in 1998, 99, as you pointed out, there was episode one coming out, and
Hmm.
you and I were both geeked about it, and of course, we knew that Star Wars toys that hadn't been opened were worth a lot of money. And so we went hunting for all these great toys, and there were all different versions of the battle droids you could buy if you looked hard, different colors and
Man, they are asking a
different
lot for
things,
these things.
and of course all the different characters you could buy. And I had a bunch of that stuff. And I remember specifically, I had four different color battle droids that I kept, and I had them up on my wall at my house, at my parents' house, really, in Orlando for a long time. They came with me for a while, but I finally said, you know what? And I looked online. I remember before I finally gave them up, and this is how everything eventually gains its values. Eventually, people are like, I don't want to hold on to this anymore. I gave up my battle droids, but
Hmm.
I said, I want to keep at least one of these things just as a reminder of that time of how excited I was about you and I running to stores and deciding which toys we wanted to own and which characters we liked. And I'll be honest, I don't remember if I bought this guy before the movie came out or after, but by the time I'd seen the movies 100 times and whatever, the guy I decided to keep was this guy right here. Can you see him?
Oh, you think you're some kind of a Jedi with your head around like that,
I
Mr.
loved
Watto?
Watto.
Everyone's favorite.
Everyone at API loved my Watto impression. I remember Mark Adler would routinely ask me to do Watto and just what you did just there, and it was just so much fun. And for those who don't know that they came with you see the little handy dandy.
Love those.
Uh, this was so high tech. at the time, you could put them onto this little pad here, and they would say some of their lines from the movies to you
If you
that
bought the
came with it.
voice, if you bought
If
the
you bought,
voice player thingy,
you had to have the voice player.
which
I
was
don't
a
have it.
very large version of the communicator that Obi-Wan and Anakin used, which
Right.
in itself was, I don't know if you know this, I think you do know this, a women's razor converted. That's what
I
those things
didn't
were.
know that.
It was
That's
a
awesome.
lady. You know the commercials that Jewel did a bunch of years ago that had that flat. It was a razor at the top and it had like a flat handle instead of it being a stick like a men's razor. It was a flat, like an oval, a flat oval at the end of it. That's what they use as their communicators. Like you think as
Hmm.
much money as they spent on budget for Star Wars Episode One, they used women's razors as the communicators, and it was a very big version of that. That you put that had a battery in it. They had that you stood that little card on it with a chip. Very cool. There was like it's like a holographic looking little piece, and it's got a picture of the character on it, and there's a chip in it. And when you stand it on there, it says a couple phrases, random phrases. So I'm sure you know this, or maybe you don't because you never took it out of the package. We knew so many lines from Star
Yeah.
Wars Episode One before the movie ever came out because we played
Mm-hmm.
with those toys so much already. And
Right.
although there was one, and I will say, just like you, there was one that my father, we went to Toys R Us for the midnight release of the toys, and we bought up every
Yeah.
single toy they had, maybe times two. My father
Nice.
insisted that we not take the Opie and Qui-Gon Jinn toy out of the box. The Opie was
Ah.
the not the goober fish. It was the first fish that attacks them, that then gets
Uh-huh.
attacked by the bigger fish when they're underwater in Naboo
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
in the what do you call it? The little
Mm-hmm.
ship that he's flying around in. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember what it's called.
Big gooberfish.
The
Huge
bongo,
teeth.
the unabongo,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the Opie and it's Qui Gon Jinn, and I to this day have never seen what it looks like in person because I'm pretty sure he still has it in the box in his closet in his
Wow.
bedroom, and so that was
Nice.
to me as a 19-year-old, I guess already,
Uh-huh.
gee, when that movie was coming out, was like, I'm never going to be like that when I grow up. How dare he prevent me from taking a toy and playing with it? And again, I'm a 19-year-old who wants to play with toys still, so give me a little slack here. But yeah, like they said so many things. Like I knew, um, you're thinking you're greater than the
Then the
Gungans, and I
Gungans.
had no idea who this Boss Nass guy was, but I
Right.
loved those. I love the phrases he said, and as it sadly turned out, it was two of only four things he ever said in the whole movie.
Yeah,
But
most of which was
be gone with him. But it was so much fun. I mean, nothing was spoiled as far as the same way you and I
No.
discussed Qui
Yeah.
Gon's
Oh, the
funeral,
soundtrack.
the soundtrack. But it was really cool. Like that's the way that
Mm.
that was a different era of communication. That was a way that you
Yeah.
could learn more about these things before the era of message boards and social media. That you could
Right.
learn so much about the details if you wanted to. They were there because they named everything. And
Mm-hmm.
Opie was his name. I don't know why they named him Opie, but they did. And I really want to see it. Next time I go home, I'm going to find that. And I'm going to rip it open. It's probably not worth very much. I can't imagine you could get much for it. How much do you think you get your Watto episode
Oh,
one
I
figure?
Googled this was, and that's one of the things I was wondering, right? Is so I've kept it now 25 years. What would it be? I went on eBay and it's was $5 or best offer for a for a
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's weird
unopened
because I
water.
see 50 and I see
Yeah.
650.
Yeah, and people will put whatever on there, but I saw somebody had like a set of 40 of the episode 1 toys on there of all different characters for $375 or best offer.
Wow.
And A, I was like, okay, so it's like $10 a piece for
Yeah.
these toys. And B, I was kind of like, should I buy this?
You know what
I
you should
was
do? You should
like,
buy it as an investment in the PoodooCast. I think
yeah,
you should buy them.
that's
And then
right.
we'll spend one episode opening them all up and making the voices go. And I think that would be great as a great tribute to
We need
episode one when we do our
a
episode one
hundred.
episode.
That would be really fun to do,
So go for it. You
but
go do it right now.
I'm not gonna go do that right now though. But
Oh
it
yeah,
is a
man, with the
solid
Kiadi
idea.
Mundi. We definitely didn't
Yeah,
have all of them, but we had a ton of them. Like
we
Captain
did not.
Tarpals. Like who the heck wants a
Yeah,
Captain
Captain
Tarpals action
Tarples we
figure?
definitely had. Yeah, definitely had Captain Tarples at one point. I
You
loved
saw a
Captain
big
Tarples.
doo-doo this time. We're gonna have to spend a lot of time with episode one. I think it deserves it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'll have to rewatch it just to refresh. But yeah, I mean, no question. And of
But that was
course,
the last
you know,
great
hmm
era, I think, of
hmm
Star Wars toys when George Lucas still owned Star Wars and the Star Wars toys I think were still made by Hasbro. I think maybe they still are. But
hmm
I was so excited about episode 1 coming out and I was an adult who knew stuff about stuff. So I said
Yeah.
to my dad, because I mean, even though I was old enough to do it myself, I said to my dad, Dad, you got to buy a ton of stock in Hasbro because when these
Hmm.
action figures come out, it's going to go through the roof. Not like
Yep.
everyone on planet Earth didn't think the same thing.
Right.
But meanwhile, I believe it was like a week or 2 weeks after episode one came out, George Lucas sold all of his stock in Hasbro and it like went into the tank. And my dad lost a ton of money on it.
Oh God.
I mean, I think it's
That's
rebounded, but I
terrible.
think my dad always liked selling at a loss. So that's the way he trades. Different story.
Yeah.
But that's where
So
you know that toys and business don't mix.
yeah.
The
Well,
president of
so
business is no place.
we got a little bit of time left, Dave. I brought one more thing I wanted to
Good.
show, and then you can close us out
I don't have
because
anything to close out
I'm
with.
sure
It's
you've
all
got
you.
more stuff. But I've got in the last piece of Star Wars memorabilia I have is not a toy, not something to play with, just something I kept, and I've shown it to you before, so it won't be a surprise to you. But it's something that I just think is really cool that I have, and I remember thinking I should get rid of it at one point, and I just didn't want to because I really like it. And it is my Star Wars trilogy, widescreen original trilogy, widescreen edition VHS tapes, all
Yeah.
three,
Hold it up. I
set of
can't see.
all three.
Hold it up in
So
front of you is the best way to see it. I love that.
yeah,
And that's is that sealed?
no, it's not sealed. It is not sealed. It's opened. I'm pulling off the top now. I
Even if
am
you're holding it
pretty
in front of
sure
you, it's
I
hard to see. That's so
watched.
weird.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I watched these movies you know, at one point, at least some of them on VHS, but very quickly after I bought these. In fact, I think you may have bought the DVDs at the same time because it was around the time we were transitioning. You could buy VHS and DVD players together where you could buy
Mm-hmm.
both so you could keep watching your old tapes. Of course, VHS players were also getting so much cheaper, almost wasn't worth it to do them. Might as well just have, but it doesn't matter. I was so excited because, you know, when you would watch Star Wars on TV, you'd never get the widescreen. You almost always
No.
got it, you know, cut, so you couldn't really see everything. Couldn't see it in its original format. And I was super excited to finally be able, whenever I wanted, to watch Star Wars the appropriate way in that widescreen, which nobody was going to be able to do but me unless they had these widescreen editions, because TVs were all squares and they would always be square, Dave.
That's a good point. But you people always wondered, like, well, yeah, why are you cutting off half your screen? You're making
Yeah.
the screen so much smaller. Like you dolt. Like
Yeah. No, you should.
I saw that so early on, right at the beginning of
Yeah.
DVD. That's why I thought DVD was so cool. That a lot of
Yeah.
stuff was coming out widescreen where it was letterboxed, and you had those black. You had to be warned that those black bars at the top and bottom of the screen were part of maintaining the aspect ratio and integrity of the film itself. Um,
Yeah.
People just wanted their whole screen to be filled up. It's like I paid for this whole TV. I want the whole TV to display picture. What is a? I would have gotten a rectangle if I wanted to see rectangle pictures. But I remember with that, like, I had almost every iteration of it on VHS,
Yeah.
and then it came out on DVD, and I'm pretty sure the DVD was full screen, or maybe the last
Mm,
version of it on VHS was that I got was in full screen. So when I
right.
switched from one to the next, it was amazing to see it suddenly in widescreen. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not a
And
toy. That
so
doesn't count.
it did. Well, no, it's memorabilia. That's for, and it's memorabilia, especially for me, because this isn't something I'm going to use
Oh,
or play with.
memorabilia. Right.
Yeah.
I was just talking toys all this whole time.
I
I
know
bought
you were.
before um after the Star Wars special editions came out, I was one of the first people to
Hmm.
buy the hand shot first t-shirt, and I
Hmm.
wore it proudly. And
Yeah.
then on a documentary for the making of episode one, I believe it is, you could see George Lucas on set filming in Tunisia wearing a hand shot first t-shirt. I was like, that's my t-shirt. And then before Revenge of the Sith came out,
Hmm.
I bought a Revenge of the Sith. As soon as they announced the name, the day that they announced the name, I bought the Revenge of the Sith black t-shirt with the red lettering, just the basic
Do you
logo of
still
Star
have
Wars.
it? You
Still
still have
have it.
either of those?
I still
Good.
have it. I've tried to phase out almost all of my graphic tees. Like I still
Yeah.
wear some of the t-shirts that came with the Funkos because I always told them
Hmm.
double XL. So they're just good, like around the house, really like flop, like big, comfortable shirts. But I've got a
Right.
bunch of them. And the Funko Star Wars shirts are always fun because they have funny phrases on them and the Star
Hmm.
Wars characters in Funko style. So it's like let the Wookiee win. And there's a big picture of Funko Chewbacca right there in the middle. And I like a Darth Vader one. I've got so many of them. I mean,
That's awesome.
along with my shelf in my closet of all the empty boxes of Funko, there's a whole other shelf that's filled
Mhm.
with very neatly folded T-shirts that I'm not allowed to wear anymore in my house. That I just have to store them over there. And that includes my bowling league T-shirts with logos that were designed by team members and myself included. And
Oh yeah.
Rambo was probably my favorite.
Yeah. And for
But
me, t-shirts, same deal. I mean, I have several that are just straight up Star Wars based, but my favorites are like the one I'm wearing today, that you have seen many times. But I probably have 4 or 5 Star Wars based t-shirts that are from woot.com, shirt woot. And they've been doing these for years. And it's almost always some, Star Wars thing,
silly
either a
phrase
good homage or a
and a
silly
pun.
thing. And in this case, you've got a picture that looks like the AT&T logo, but it's got clearly the AT-AT in the midst of it. And it says AT-AT, reach out and crush someone, which
Oh,
is a really fun, uh, just little joke for those of you who remember the
but
tagline of
see,
AT&T's reach out and touch someone, in case I have to explain that joke to you.
but
I
there you
have
go again, Jeremy, showing your
yeah,
evil roots. You're rooting
right.
for the AT-ATs. You want them to crush those rebels on Hoth. That's you.
Not
You're
necessarily,
the one who's
Dave.
standing there in the corner with the scaring teenagers with your lightsaber.
I am absolutely doing
You're
that, and I
mean.
stand by it, and I don't feel bad at all. But as for the t-shirts, I do have a lovely "This is the way" t-shirt that came
This
from
is the way.
woot.com with it that shows Mando and a floating the child next to him at the time. I don't think we knew his name, but when I got that shirt, it was Grogu.
His name
And
was
then
Baby
I had
Yoda. Every time
yes,
you hear "This is the way," whenever anybody says "This is the
hmm
way," you have to
hmm
say "This is the way" back
yes,
every
yeah,
time.
this is the way.
This is the
Absolutely,
way.
this is the way.
This
But
is the way.
anyway, this could be a problem. Anyway, and I have a Stormtrooper Academy T-shirt. That one is one of my favorites. Got 3
Again,
Stormtrooper
here we go.
helmets on
See,
it. It's a,
Jeremy,
it's it,
you're evil.
but it says "Ready, Fire, Aim" on it, which I just think
That's
is
cute. That's
hysterical.
funny.
Yeah,
That's funny.
and then of course, one of my favorites. Anytime you can get a combination of several media into a joke, I think it's fun. And in this case, I have Darth Vader, Admiral Akbar, Jean-Luc Picard, and Will Riker sitting around a poker table,
Oh yeah, I've seen that one too.
and they're all exclaiming things. Darth Vader is screaming "No!" like he did it at the end of Revenge of the Sith. You have Admiral Akbar saying "It's a trap," and it's just as Jean-Luc Picard is saying "There are 4 aces" as he's slamming down, and Will Riker is face palming as he did many times throughout the run of the show. And it's like, this is so great. I love this on so many levels, and it's great for a poker night T-shirt too. So just to give you an idea of my Star Wars memorabilia that constantly goes on my body.
I love it. Mine are all seeming, good guy ones because I've always thought of
Mm-hmm.
myself as a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Thought you said you had a Darth Vader one though.
which one?
Don't
That
you?
one
Didn't
came
you
to me
say
free. I didn't buy it.
okay? Oh, fair enough. So you
But
don't
my
buy any
favorite
bad
one
guy
probably
T-shirts?
is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You don't buy any bad guy T-shirts?
I mean, I haven't bought a Star Wars T-shirt in a long time. Currently, in
No.
my T-shirt drawer of T-shirts that I do wear, they're all plain colors. Those moisture wicking, like
Mm-hmm.
stretchy fabric ones that aren't actually T-shirts. I don't know what they're like, quasi wetsuit type T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Not like Under Armour because I don't have any kind of physique. I have one other than those 2 big oversized Funko T-shirts that I'll wear around the house because they're sloppy. One T-shirt that just has it's like a heather gray T-shirt. It just says Star Wars across the front of it, and I always, for whatever reason, I'll always come back to that one, and I'll definitely make sure that if we're going to Disney that I'll have a Star Wars T-shirt on,
Yeah.
just because
Or Back to the
Star Wars is
Future.
Disney.
Although that was Universal. You had Back to the Future
I
on,
had a Back to
which
the
made
Future on
sense.
T-shirt on at
Yeah.
Universal, of course. You got to
Yeah.
keep in theme. But my
You
favorite one
do.
probably is T-shirt wise, since we're going down the T-shirt hole, was one year. And again, I live in the land from which Star Wars was sprung, from George Lucas's homeworld, and they did at University of Southern California (USC). They did a Star Wars exhibit at the science museum. They have a permanent science museum there, like a space and tense and
Yeah.
technology museum or space and science museum. And they were doing a whole Star Wars thing, and I obviously had to get some kind of memorabilia from there. So I found a really really cool um, T-shirt that was a Japanese star poster promoting Star Wars, the original Star Wars. So
Yeah.
it's got like a cool um, a stylized version of the of the artwork that we know from the posters that we've seen, like what is it, Drew Struzan stuff, I think is what his name is, from Star Wars, but it's Japanese-ish, and it's got Japanese characters on it, which probably say, silly sucker American bought this T-shirt or something like that. I don't know what it says, but I always liked that one, and it also reminded me of a simpler time, because that was well before I had to I had to disavow T-shirts with Star Wars on them. But
Well, Dave, I remember one villain you did own and wear and were very proud of. I don't know if you still have it, but that was your Darth Maul jacket.
oh yes, you're right, I did. I can't believe that I left that out, and I can't believe that I went there. I deliberated a lot. I know I was only going to get one of them, and I know you guys have seen
Mhm.
him before. It was a Mark Echo did a collaboration with Star Wars where he did these very very cool jackets that were like stylish jackets that were also subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, completely Star Wars in their look. And so I was
Mhm.
between I think it was between the Rebel Pilot one from Episode 4, which was an orange jacket, and the Darth Maul jacket, which was black, so it was more subtly Star Wars. So I opted for the black one, which has I've worn it to death. It was very costumey if you look at it closely, but I've worn it so much it has basically like plastic faux leather towards the cuffs of both sleeves, and on stripes on the jacket, and then it had a hood, and it had another hood. So what you could do is, Mark Echo jackets were that way a lot already. You could zip the hood, the zipper of the front of the hoodie all the way up to the top of your head, and when it was zipped at the top of your head, that means you kind of had like a mask on that you could see through it, and it was Darth Maul's face. And then the hood
I
was the
loved
hood that
that.
Darth Maul wore
It was
over the mask.
awesome.
So I sometimes cheated and wore that as a Halloween costume, because Darth Maul's face is super scary. And
Yeah.
I would just wear like black jeans, black shoes, and my Mark Echo jacket, and it was great. Um, I hate the fact that it is in such awful condition, and I still wear it. But now
Yeah.
when I wear it, the pieces of the fake leather stuff have broken off it, and it continue to
Yeah.
fall off it. So it's just like withering into nothing, and there's probably no way to fix it, or why I would bother. But I have looked up trying to find some of those jackets, and they're pretty hard to find. People are charging a lot of money for them. But I
I'm
would
sure.
certainly
Yeah,
love to
they
get another brand new Darth Maul size extra large
yeah.
Star Wars jacket.
Any other
But yeah,
little
that's a cool one.
pieces of
Thanks for reminding me of
memorabilia
that
we
one.
missed? Yeah, no, that was a good one. I was always you should. I remember you telling me about that, and I Googled. I was like, "This is way too
You
cool,"
never saw it?
but
You've never seen it?
not in person. I
Oh
saw. I
wow.
Google. I had to Google it,
Yeah, that was very cool.
but
They had a whole line of them. It was a Rebel pilot. There was a
yeah,
stormtrooper one that was all white with the black trace, like the black lines to show you the outlines of the armor. And there
yeah,
was a Boba Fett one, and
that's awesome.
that might be it. I think there were four of them. Maybe he
I still
released
think,
more
and I
later.
think you got the best one though. I think you ended up with it because Darth Maul. I mean, say what you want about anything else with Episode One. One thing that I don't think anyone would argue with is Darth Maul's still probably one of the coolest villains, one-off villains Star Wars has ever had. He was just awesome to look at. He was terrifying. You believed he could take on two Jedi and possibly win, although he didn't in the end. And he was really scary. And
But you
I
wouldn't
just thought he
believe
was
how much flack I got for that. I'm
really
sorry, no, now that I'm looking at it, because I don't have the jacket in front of me right now. The plasticky pieces were on basically around the elbows. Oh no, no, this isn't
okay.
even mine. Never mind. They were where I say they were. They were where I say where they were. Like I got so much flack for of the four choices. I went with the
Huh.
episode one, and that's so like, man, you're just like a Star Wars loyalist. You just love anything George Lucas will do, and I'm like, Darth Maul is an awesome dude, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. All right, man. Well, this was fun. I enjoyed talking about this with you.
This
I
turned
feel
out to
like
be a
there's
lot
got
more
to be
fun than
more we could
I was
delve through
expecting.
here as well, but yeah, we'll get back to this topic as well. But maybe we'll talk about some of the things we owned at different times and other things we wished we'd owned and never did. But this was fun.
Go wash your t-shirts in some blue milk, buddy.
Very caustic to wash with, but also very nourishing for the soul.
Yes, indeed.
All
Thank
right.
you. Good
Later,
times.
man.
Bye.